Welcome to the complete YouTube starter guide for business owners.
Your customer is on one side of this raging river, and you're on the other side with something they desperately need. In order to help them get from one side of the river to the other, it's your job to bring them over this bridge that you are building with your content.
This is a deep dive masterclass, and we're going to be talking about why YouTube is really the smartest platform for business growth, how to maximize your reach and create content, especially when you have limited time.
YouTube is a search engine. People just want their answers. If you have a business where you are the face of it, you already have the dynamics of a business that's set up to win in 2025. And now it's just leveraging these tools to let your audience in on who you are and how you can help them.
Now, our guest today is Alex Catoni from the Copy Posse. She's on a mission to de-douchify the internet and is really an expert in marketing, branding, as well as copywriting. So when it comes to having powerful scripts, powerful titles, she's helped over 500,000 copywriters and entrepreneurs from around the world ignite their businesses with her fun and empathetic approach to branding, marketing, and copywriting. And she has over 361,000 subscribers on YouTube. So this is kind of one of my dream guests because she's got her own products, her own services. She's running a team. She's scaling her business, but she understands the power and importance of YouTube. And so if you're a business owner that's ready to get more leads and customers, you're going to want to save this one, stick around until the end, maybe even take notes, because this is going to be a deep dive masterclass. Alex, welcome to the show.
I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, big question, why should business owners invest into YouTube this year?
I mean, here's the thing. Now, more than ever, personal branding is becoming so important. I personally believe that customers are at an all-time high when it comes to mistrust and distrust, and they are looking for leaders to help guide the way, kind of like navigate this minefield of fake and AI generated content and mass production at this level that has become almost exhausting. I know I, for one, am feeling a bit exhausted by the amount of content being published online. And so many people are looking for those leaders, those voices that they can look up to and say, okay, here's the person that I can trust. Here's the person that I want to learn from. And YouTube to me is just such a predictable platform as a creator because at its bare bones, it is a search engine. So if you are genuinely solving people's problems, it's impossible not to win with YouTube as long as you're super clear on who you serve and how you can help them.
One of the biggest challenges is I think if someone's clicked on this video, they want to do YouTube. They want to get the benefit of building a community, generating more leads and customers. But like all entrepreneurs, there are so many competing things for their attention. You're trying to lead, you're trying to build out product, marketing, sales, and then you also have all these other social media platforms. So I guess why prioritize YouTube and how much time per month does it take to succeed? And then maybe briefly scales of team or support. Mm-hmm. And where did you start? If you're starting out, you have a smaller business, where can it scale to? If we focus on this idea of ROI, that's on business owners' minds, and how much time it takes.
Yeah. And that's a question I get a lot because I won't lie. When it comes to barriers to entry, creating a piece of long form content on YouTube, of course, those of you who are familiar with YouTube know there is YouTube Community, which sort of is like an Instagram type of feed. Then you have YouTube Shorts, which are the short videos. And then you have the main, YouTube content that goes on your channel. And this is what I call long form. And when I say long form, I'm not talking like an hour, like this, but long form content is great. To me, long form is anything that's like let's say 5 minutes or more. My average video goes from 8 to 12 minutes. And I'll rewind a little bit and talk about how I started, because when I started my YouTube channel, I had a copywriting and marketing business. I was working behind the scenes with a lot of clients, writing copy full time, planning marketing funnels. I had a small agency with a team of writers. And so I was busy. I mean, YouTube was like almost felt like an impossible mission when I was just getting started. And I completely understand why people feel that way, because especially if you are used to being behind the scenes like I was in my business with zero brand, zero following, truly starting from scratch in 2019. All I had were some good stories from being in the industry for over 10 years and working with clients. And I had a very clear reason why and who I was serving as I started my channel. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I started by creating one piece of video content a week. And what that looked like in the beginning was me sitting in front of my camera and kind of rambling. And I did that because I learned from another great YouTuber friend of mine who was like, yeah, just make sure that you like have your talking points and just go with it. And I realized like that was not working for me because my videos would end up being so long and I would have to cut out so much. And it was a lot of work for my video editor at the time, who happened to be my brother. And I'm sure he hated his life editing his sister's videos. But after about 4 to 6 videos, I started scripting out my videos word for word. And that's something to me is a process that you get faster at it with time. And it becomes something that you can then outsource and get support with from a team. And why I love YouTube specifically is it's not a personal branding platform in the way that Instagram is, where it really is about kind of showing up frequently and posting Instagram stories and letting people peek into your life. And, you know, it's a little bit of a crapshoot, at least how I feel about Instagram. I know Instagram is an incredible tool, but when I look at YouTube, I'm like, I can see that people are searching these questions. I have an answer to it. I am going to write a script. I am going to batch write those scripts, come up with 4 scripts, sit down in front of my camera and my teleprompter, and I've gotten to the place now where I can record about one video in about 25 minutes, and those are 4 videos a month. That's 2 hours that I'm in front of my camera. And in the beginning, that was all I did in terms of content creation. So I would write the blog post, I would write the script, I would record it, I would send it to my video editor who would clean it up, and then I would post it on YouTube. I would send out an email to my very tiny list, and I would post about it on Facebook and Instagram. And that was it. And that's all I could commit to back then, like 1 post a week. And that's still what I do on YouTube, but 1 post a week, even everywhere else on my social channels. And so I do think it is a scalable process and something that can be very rinse and repeat in your business.
And if you remember back to that time, what kind of views were your videos getting? And what would you say the ROI was? Was your email list growing? Were you able to attribute customers?
Yeah, good question. I had nothing to sell when I started my YouTube channel other than my high ticket services, right? So I will be the first to admit that I went in without a real strategy. All I knew was that I had this calling to talk more about the marketing industry and what I was seeing happening. And I wanted to support other copywriters like me who felt like this world was only for men, basically, in their basements and being like, what about me? I love to write. And so I was very connected to who I wanted to write for. But I broke all of the marketing rules because when I started creating my content, I had no email list. In fact, it was probably a couple of months in that I finally started to put a CTA in my description that was the very, very juicy CTA of join my email list. I didn't even have a lead magnet at the time, but I thought, I'm just going to put it here and hopefully people will join. And again, that's the other beautiful thing about YouTube is that once someone watches you on video, whether it's 1 video, 2 video, 3 videos, they feel like they know you. They feel like they can trust you more. They want to know more. And so they got on my email list, not in droves. By the time I did my very first program launch in January of 2020, I only had about 2,300 people on my list, but did almost 6 figures in that first launch. So the answer is my ROI for those first 10 months was, no, I'm going to say 8 months, because then I started monetizing on YouTube, which means YouTube starts paying you. And that would have probably had me break even, but I was spending about $500 a month on a video editor. And that was all I could really afford. I couldn't pay for anything else. I couldn't pay for ads. I couldn't do any of that. I was doing my videos on a crappy SLR camera. Now your iPhone would be like so much better than the camera I was using. And I paid my video editor to edit the videos, and that was it. So I started my channel in February of 2019. I hit 1,000 subscribers. I remember it so well because it was my birthday in August, and it was like the best birthday gift. I'd finally hit 1,000 subscribers. So to answer your question about what kind of views I was getting, I mean, the first video got like 200 views and I thought I had made it. And then I realized those were just all my friends and family members like giving me a vote of confidence. And then it felt like I was screaming into the void for a good 4 months. And then I just slowly started to pick up some traction and hit 1,000 subscribers in August, and then monetized in October of 2019. And by that point, my channel was really starting to pick up speed. By December, I had about 10,000 subscribers. And then in January, I did that first launch. So it started real slow in the beginning and was definitely an investment, both time and money, before I saw any returns.
Man, I love this mindset, though, to think about, okay, you're being consistent, one a week, you've got a plan, you've got a workflow. There's really a whole year up to a launch, 8 months to getting monetized. For others, it takes longer. It might also go faster, but it's not overnight. And you also aren't casual. I think one of the most missing pieces of a lot of people is they're like, it's a new year, I'm launching a YouTube channel, I'm launching a video podcast. And consistency means they post for 3 weeks and then they fall off and they get busy. There's just something so powerful that you really stuck to being consistent and had even this mindset of at least like a year doing it. And it's so cool to hear that then that led up to a launch. And of course, as we dive into the 5 steps on how to turn any business into a YouTube success, if you had this information, you could go faster by being a part of this podcast and learning from our mistakes, and maybe from day one, starting with more strategy. So let's talk about it. You actually have 5 steps that business owners should know when it comes to starting a YouTube channel right. And the first step is select your niche. Can you break that down, what that means? Are you a business owner or serious content creator that is struggling to crack the YouTube code? Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated with slow growth? If so, then our new one-on-one coaching program at viralvideocoach.com is your premier ticket to YouTube success. Becoming the authority in your niche, attracting engaged leads and loyal customers. We offer one-to-one coaching with our YouTube experts that'll help you get results fast, and a supportive community that's cheering you on. So if you're ready to stop wasting time with trial and error and to stop leaving money on the table, then head to viralvideocoach.com to apply to see if you qualify for our coaching program. But heads up, this offer is not for everybody. It's only for serious content creators and entrepreneurs that are ready to take action. So if that's you, head to viralvideocoach.com to apply, or click the link in the show notes. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
I remember when I started my channel and I told someone that I was doing a channel on copywriting for copywriters. Now I speak to business owners as well. But in the beginning, I was like, I'm talking to myself 5 years ago. So many people told me, I won't say so many people, but a few people said to me, that's really niche. Like, don't you think you want to do just more general marketing? Because that's how I know you. Because people knew me as being a marketer first, which I was, but I also did copywriting for my clients. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Like, do I just talk about general marketing? And I don't have to tell everyone listening to this that general marketing advice online is, everyone's doing it, and it can be a lot harder to stand out. And so I knew exactly who I was speaking to. It was to the women, and of course I have men in my posse as well, but I was speaking to women who had a passion for writing and had no freaking idea that they could turn that into an income stream, because they had never seen anybody do it except Carrie Bradshaw on Sex and the City. And how the heck does she do it, right? She's writing for this big publication or whatever. And so I really kind of sunk my teeth into that, where I knew I wanted, yes, my mission was to dedouchify the internet. I mean, at the time I didn't use those words, but it really was to sort of redefine an industry that had been so dominated by men, to kind of tell women like, hey, you have a place at the table here. You have wisdom to share, and businesses are out there looking for you. In fact, as a copywriter, as a woman copywriter, the number one thing I would hear from my clients was, do you know any other amazing women copywriters? Because I was fully booked. I had a wait list of months. Like I couldn't take on any more work. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. I don't know that many other women copywriters. I think I knew like 2 or 3. And I knew so many, men. And so I thought, man, there are so many women out there who need to learn this skill set. And I do believe that especially now, when people are looking for a leader, they're wanting someone who has the specific personalized advice that they want, because everyone is looking for a reason to count you out. Now more than ever, right? There's so much information online. Like it's exhausting. And there's a lot of people who do what you do, and there's a lot of people competing for that same audience's attention. So the more niche you can go with exactly who you help and why, the more success you're going to have. And so a formula that I love to teach is very, very simple. I help X with Y. And if your I help X with Y is I help anyone learn basically everything when it comes to marketing, that's when you know you have a problem. And so some of the most successful channels that I've seen, and I won't use a marketing example, but I'll use other examples, are, I help high anxiety women I help high stress overachieving women with their anxiety through yoga practice, or I give prenatal and postnatal exercises to women with back pain. Like the more specific you can be, the more you will find like those dream clients who will not only subscribe to your channel, but they will like eat up everything you put out, because they finally feel like they have a place where they belong in this craziness that is the internet. So I just think the more niche you can go in the beginning, the better. And then the beautiful thing about that is, as your audience starts to grow, as your authority starts to grow, as your community evolves, naturally they will want to learn more from you. And so once you get to that kind of that critical mass, that's when you can start broadening a little bit to serve different segments of your audience. But the way to grow fast is to be super specific, even though we all know you know a lot of things. What's the tip of the spear that you can really use to start a channel and start strong?
One of my favorite quotes is, you don't want to be a wandering generality. You want to be a meaningful specific. And I love this idea of selecting your niche and picking out a topic that you're going to focus on. And it's scary because sometimes I feel like it's like, man, if I niche down, I'm not going to be able to reach people. But oftentimes the opposite is true. In a sea of sameness, you're trying to stand out, as Seth Godin says, and be a purple cow. Talk a little bit about channel identity and maybe even branding. Before we get into number 2, is there other aspects of not just knowing I help X with Y? I know who my target audience is. I know what problem I solve for them. And I've articulated that clearly, and my content demonstrates that. But what are some other things as a branding expert that you think about can help stand out when there's just so many different entrepreneurs and content creators out there with YouTube channels?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's huge. When I started the Copy Posse, I was so excited by it because I had been in the industry for well over a decade writing copy behind the scenes. And it frustrated me to no end how much people were ignoring the importance of branding. I can't tell you how many broy masterminds I've gone to or been in, or events where someone starts talking about branding on stage and everyone just sort of glosses over, because for the longest time it was seen as this airy fairy thing that didn't really impact ROI, and it didn't really impact the bottom line because it was harder to measure. I remember even going back to social media, when social media first started coming on the scene. I remember being in a mastermind and this wickedly smart woman was talking about social media, and everyone was just berating her with questions like, what's your ROI on that? And what's your click-through and this and that? And gosh, it was just this newfangled thing that everybody was so skeptical of. And now more than ever, I think brand identity is a huge piece to the puzzle, because I don't have to tell all of you listening that there are many people who teach what I teach to a very similar audience online. Definitely, I haven't invented copywriting. I haven't invented this idea of marketing. So I was so excited building the Copy Posse because I got to build a brand that felt fun and felt like how I wanted to show up. All the way down to my branding colors, to the lightning bolts and the tigers, to the backdrop behind me, which didn't start like this and started much simpler than this, to the way that I communicated my mission and why I do what I do. To me, that was really, really important. So when you are looking at other people who do similar things to you, really kind of asking yourself, how can I be different and how can I call out what's not working? And, you've noticed me say things like bro marketing. And that's because my mission is big around calling out that old school mentality. And when I started doing that, there was a whole bunch of people who were like, finally, someone's talking about this marketing that doesn't feel good. And is there a better way? And so, getting clear on how you want to show up and how do you want your brand to be perceived? What language are you using? All of that is so, so important and helps create that sense of loyalty amongst your community, because that's what you're doing when you're building a YouTube channel. I think a huge mistake that marketers make, and again, like, it just goes to show, like, the mentality is, I have a lot of marketers who say to me, I've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel. And I'm like, that's awesome. You should definitely do that. I love YouTube, and they're like, yeah, I have all of this footage from these other programs and these other events and like all this footage just laying around and I'm just going to upload it. And I'm like, whoa, like, you're totally missing the point, because YouTube, they're calling it the next generation studios. Like, YouTube is surpassing a lot of these crazy big studios that produce, television shows and things like that, where people are opting to sit in their living room and actually watch YouTube on their TV. And I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but you could totally look this up. Sean, the billions of hours that a household spends on average watching YouTube on their televisions, which to me just points to people are really hungry for that sort of one-to-one conversation. And YouTube needs to be treated like that. It can't just be, I'm going to upload all this random content that I have laying around and expect that that's going to help you build authority and build a brand on YouTube.
Yeah, that stat is YouTube is more popular than Netflix, even with a larger share of TV viewership and household reach.
That's crazy, more than Netflix.
Yeah, it looks like 1 billion hours a day is total
That
viewing
sounds right.
on a TV that people are watching YouTube. So that's such powerful stuff. I am curious if you have any favorite books that might help people go deeper in marketing. There's a book called Primal Branding, and it talks about, it's particularly great for content creators. It talks about your story. Like, when you're building a brand, how are you telling your story? What are your creeds, language? What are your icons, those images? What are the rituals of your community? Who are the pagans, AKA the haters? Who are your enemies?
Like that. I have to read that one.
What are your sacred words? And then also about the leader, which it might be, sometimes Russell Brunson talks about that attractive character, kind of that .com secrets conversation. Is there any particular, do you feel like there's, maybe you need to write a book, but do you feel like there's any particular good books or resources when it comes to those that want to go deeper in brand?
Yeah, so I will shout out my friend Deb Gabor, who wrote the book, Branding is Sex. Even the title, like, she knows what she's doing. And she has a follow-up book that I believe is called Irrational Loyalty, I believe is the title. I really love everything that she talks about when it comes to brand. And I love how she uses kind of big brands as an example, as someone who runs an agency and has worked with a lot of big brands. Because to me, I'm so fascinated by those conversations that happen, like, in those boardrooms when it comes to building a persona. And then Dane Walker recently came out with a book called 90-Day Brand Plan, which, after a conversation I had with him, he really inspired me to just lean even harder into personal branding in 2025, because I'll be the first to admit that I almost had a stronger personal brand when I was just getting started. And it was because it was just me and I was so in it and I was obsessed with the metrics and I was looking at everything. And I was like, my husband literally told me one day, like, you have to stop talking about your YouTube channel. And I was so obsessed with it. And I really put my heart and soul into it. And then I built a business and a team and process and operations. And now my commitment for this year is to get back into really having the time and space to bring more joy and fun and playfulness back into my branding and content. And yeah, I think that that's a great book to read. And he talks about personal brand across all different social platforms. But I think if you have a business where you are the face of it, or you're a solopreneur, or you're a service provider, or you're doing anything where there's that level of like high touch, I mean, you already have the dynamics of a business that's set up to win in 2025. And now it's just leveraging these tools to let your audience, in on who you are and how you can help them.
Well, we got to get into tip number 2, but I want to encourage listeners to check out the show notes, and we'll make sure all those great books are linked up. Also, subscribe, because Dane Walker is actually coming on the Think Media podcast in the future. His book, 90-Day Brand Plan, as well as some of those other resources. And so for 5 tips of how to turn any business into a YouTube success, number 1, dial in your niche, dial in your brand. Number 2, determine your target audience. Explain what this is.
Yeah, and I kind of let that one out of the bag a little early with tip number 1. It really is sort of the 1-2 punch with selecting your niche, because, the first step is figuring out what are you genuinely a subject matter expert in, or something that you enjoy speaking about ad nauseum, right? Like I always say, when it comes to selecting your niche, what's something that you would talk about if you weren't getting paid to talk about it for a year? Because that's exactly what starting a YouTube channel looks like, at least let's say on average. But knowing your niche is sort of step 1. Step 2 is defining your target audience. And what I mean by that is just knowing so clearly who you are for. I think that because I so squarely targeted aspiring freelance copywriters, those people who were in a dreaded 9-to-5, who wanted to create more freedom in their lives, I was able to really lean into that because of the life that I had lived before starting my YouTube channel, traveling the world, doing exactly what they wanted to do. And I'll be honest, when I first started my channel, I thought I was going to be speaking to business owners who would then hire me for my services. So I floundered a little bit in the very, very early days because I had no monetization plan in mind. Remember, I was going in with no products or services, no products, just my copywriting services, versus maybe you're listening to this and you already have a product. You already know who your dream client is, your dream customer is, and you know exactly what the monetization path is. For me, I was like, I don't know. The only way I know how to make money is to sell my copywriting services. So I'm going to do videos that speak to business owners, and then they're going to hire me. And then I realized it was probably by, I think, the 4th video, maybe the 5th video, that I'm like, the only comments that I'm getting on my videos, and there weren't many, were like, okay, cool, but like, how did you do what you do? And I realized like, oh, wait, people want to know how I started my freelance copywriting business. Interesting. Maybe my dream clients aren't hanging out on YouTube. And so that's when I really pivoted. And that's, I think, when the momentum really took off. So if I were to go back and redo it, I probably just right from the get-go would have had that clear path in mind and known this is who I'm serving. And maybe I would have seen faster results that way.
I also have some powerful points that listeners can apply from your notes. And not only do you want to know who you're talking to, determine your target audience, but you also say, you really want to start to understand their needs. What are their biggest needs? What are their biggest pain points? And also, what are their aspirations? Here at the Think Media podcast, we say the creator who understands the viewer best wins. And sometimes this information might be top of mind for us, but I've personally learned, even the longer I do this, that there's still deeper levels to go to have greater empathy, understanding the language people use, understand what keeps them up at night. So if someone's putting together their simple YouTube plan for this year, they're dialing in their niche, they're dialing in their target audience, what's the power of knowing people's problems and ambitions with a fierce level of clarity?
It's everything. And I don't mean just like going to ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT what, the 10 biggest challenges your target audience is experiencing. Well, there might be some great ideas in there that you can expand on. The question I really love to ask is it's kind of like you're digging, like you're a archaeologist and you're excavating what people truly care about. And if I were to ask, I'll use an example of someone from my community. If I were to ask someone from my community, like, what do you want? They would say, I want freedom. And you're like, great. Don't we all, right? Like freedom, like, yes, we all want time, freedom, money. That's a given. We all want time, freedom, and money. Like, tell me one person who doesn't want one of those three things. And so what you'll get is a lot of that surface level stuff. And then if you ask the follow-up question, why is freedom important to you? All of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I just recently had a child and I am coming to the end of my mat leave. And the idea of leaving my newborn at home or at daycare literally feels like death to me. And I want nothing more than to be able to work from home and have the freedom to control my schedule so that I can see my baby grow up. And I just got goosebumps when I said that, because all of a sudden it's like, holy shoot. I swear a lot, so I'm like trying to tone it down a little bit. Like, holy cow, oh my gosh, that is what they want. Or I asked another student, like, you want more freedom? Why? I want to be able to start a business to show my parents that I actually can do this and they don't need to take care of me anymore, and that I don't need their help anymore. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's, yeah, totally. Like, you want to prove your parents like right and wrong at the same time, you know, like, I told you I got this. And so it's really how you get to those deeper level questions. And I think we all, you know, can talk to aspirations, but the second you get to that next level down, you can start using more anecdotal stories in your content. People listening to that go, oh my gosh, yes, that is what I want. And it just allows you to connect on a deeper level that so much content just doesn't do now.
Genius question to take it deeper, which brings us to number 3, which is create your content pillars. So what should listeners do on this step?
Great question. So I don't know about you, but like when I start thinking about content creation, it can feel overwhelming, right? Like if I didn't know what I know and someone said to me, you have to start creating content. Oh, and you have to start creating content on like YouTube. You have to start creating content on Instagram. You have to, like, I would be like, where do I start? So something that I teach is this idea of content pillars. And it's almost like you're building a bridge, right? Like your customer is on one side of this raging river and you're on the other side with something they desperately need, right? And in order to help them get from one side of the river to the other, it's your job to bring them over this bridge that you are building with your content. Now, this river is like raging with self-doubt and objections and insecurities about all the different, you know, things that they could be learning and doing differently, and why are you the right person for them, et cetera, et cetera. So I see these content pillars as being the foundation of a bridge that you're building with your audience in order to build trust. They also give you really clear kind of parameters around what you should be talking about and what will ultimately serve your audience. Now, I have screwed this up a few times because, like so many entrepreneurs, I get shiny object syndrome, or someone leaves a comment on a video about something unrelated, and I'm like, yeah, we should do a video on that. And like, I do a video, and then afterwards I'm like, that felt so out of left field. Like, why did I even talk about that? And while I do think there's a place for coloring outside the lines, people follow you and subscribe to your channel because they want more of the same. They want to know that you're the trusted source for whatever it is that they came for. And so coming up with your content pillars is really just 5 like buckets or topics that you know your audience will need support with. And that could look like, you know, in my case, it's copywriting, marketing, branding. I also do interviews with entrepreneurs to hear more about like their businesses and their tips. I talk about mindset. And so if something falls out of those 5 categories, I have to seriously audit it and go, is this a little bit out of left field? And every time I've ignored that, views are lower. Or the other end happens where I do a video that gets more views than I want, but with the wrong people. And then you're like, great, you know, I didn't want to get a whole bunch of new subscribers who actually aren't my ideal subscriber anyway.
That's a powerful insight to also consider, not just for structure, not just for building up being the authority in a specific thing. But YouTube can be dangerous because you might feel inspired to talk about something random, or you might tap into posting YouTube shorts or something, which could be the Wild West of kind of going viral for abstract or different types of things. And it can bring a dopamine rush of vanity metrics. Whoa, look at these views and subscribers this got. But did you get the right subscribers? That's a super interesting question when everyone's chasing growth. How do you try to measure that?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like this didn't happen to me on YouTube, but it happened to me on Instagram, where I had a reel go viral that even when I was making the reel, I remember thinking, like, I hired a content team to help me, which didn't last very long, because I was like, I really just want someone to really help me dial in my short form strategy on Instagram. And I did a video, and the whole time I was like, I don't love that video. And what do you know? It went freaking viral. My, followers went up. And if I could just reverse that and literally remove all those new followers, I would have, because the quality of my engagement went down. The quality of the conversations I've been having in my DMs went down. And so, this happens across the board. To your point, I know the vanity metrics are exciting, but you want to be careful not just to chase those numbers, because you're going to end up building a channel that you don't even recognize, or a channel that ultimately isn't serving your audience and isn't converting to anything more than maybe some AdSense dollars, but not true, clients or customers who are going to get on your email list and purchase anything from you. And then, how I track it, I don't know. I literally, I try to just recreate content that I know my audience wants. And when something goes, viral with an audience that, like it happened on Instagram, it was kind of this wake up call for me where I'm like, hey, I don't want to color outside the lines like that anymore.
Man, that's a great tip. Okay, so number 4 is research the competition. So if we've defined and selected our niche, determine our target audience, created our content pillars, now we're going to research the competition. What would be kind of a process for this, and what would we be looking for? Maybe how much? Paint a picture for me, Alex. I set aside some time as a business owner. I've been hustling all week, so I'm going to take a couple hours on Saturday morning. Could I do this in a few hours? And what would I be doing during this research session? Every day you want to start your YouTube channel is another day of missed opportunities and untapped potential. Here's the truth. YouTube reaches more 18 to 49-year-olds than all the cable networks combined. The opportunity is massive, and the Think Media team and I want to help you seize it. I'm excited to announce our YouTube 1K Challenge, a free 5-day event that will give you the exact blueprint to start and grow your YouTube channel in 2025. Whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or somebody ready to grow their personal brand, this challenge is your roadmap to success. To register, just go to tube1kchallenge.com. We're going to be doing one training session a day for 5 days, and you're going to learn how to get your first 1,000 subscribers and start earning real income. Insider strategies that make viewers want to click on your videos and keep watching. Multiple different ways to earn money from your YouTube channel, even if you have a small audience, and how to build an authentic personal brand that truly connects with people. But it gets even better. We are giving away prizes every single day of the challenge. You could win professional microphones, lighting kits, and premium content creation software. And during this challenge, you're getting access to the exact training that we offer in our $4,000 coaching program, but you're getting it completely for free, and you can start with just your smartphone. So if you're ready to turn 2025 into your YouTube breakthrough year, go to tube1kchallenge.com to register. That's tube1kchallenge.com, or click the link in the show notes or YouTube description to register for our upcoming challenge.
I think I share this tip with a grain of salt for a couple different reasons. One, the comparison game can be deadly. And if you are using research and researching the competition in comparison as a way to not get started because you're actually thinking, oh my God, I can't do better than this person, or why should I even bother getting started because so-and-so is already doing it. And I hear that all the time. I want to make sure I share that researching the competition, it's a slippery slope, and it's once you start researching, all you then see is more content that's just like the area where you want to create content. And if you don't have kind of like ironclad, I'm not going to let this derail me or frustrate me or think, what's the point? Researching the competition is incredibly powerful. And that's really as a way to spot gaps, to see what's working, to read the comment section and to see where people are asking questions where maybe something was left out. It's honestly, to me, just so helpful, because if you are trying to create a YouTube channel in a certain niche, serving a certain audience, and there's other people doing it, because surely there is, like, name me a niche and an audience that doesn't exist yet right now. And there will be other people who do what you do. And so going and literally reading the words of your ideal customers in their comment section can be a really great way to kind of see what they're asking for, what's missing. I also like to see just what kind of videos are popping on a certain topic. So you can go to a YouTube channel that does similar types of content to what you want to do, filter the video based on most popular and most views, and you can kind of get an idea of the type of content that people are searching for on YouTube. Now, of course, another big caveat to that is I'm not saying copy. I'm not saying go to another channel and just remake the same video with the same title and the same thumbnail and go, okay, great, that's working. Look at it, analyze it, and think, wow, that's super insightful, but I actually have some wisdom to share based on this topic. And so I think I can create a video that although it addresses a similar issue, I'm bringing my, of course, own ideas, stories, case studies, whatever, to the table. And so it's just a great way to be able to pick up on the trends that are happening in your niche and know what's working. There's a tool that I've used called oneof10.com. I don't know why it's called that, but it is paid. However, you can type in any keyword and it'll actually pull up all of the trending videos that use that keyword. And so it can be another really great way to, rather than thinking, well, who are the people in my niche? I don't even know. Go and use a tool like that, which will pull up, the videos and actually give you the growth factor of how viral that video is going. It'll say like 10x or 36x. And it's a good way to just kind of go, oh, interesting. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of them I see and I'm like, no, I'm not doing a video on that. Like, that is so out of my 5 content pillars, or it is so off brand for me, or they're using fear mongering and hype, and like, that's just not my style. So like, of course, like, this is where you get to, as the business owner, decide what feels aligned with you.
And those are some great tips. And if you can go in with the right mindset and not let it derail you, but just learn the lessons, there's so much there. Yeah. One of 10 is a very cool software. We've worked with them a little bit. It stands for the goal being YouTube's analytics tell you your last video is 1 out of 10. And you're always trying to beat your previous best in the analytics. So that's why it's called that.
There you go.
For business owners, there's another, we love vidIQ, and we'll link up some of these resources. But I actually wanted to share a free tool that I think is one of the coolest public tools. And awesome. I'm curious, if you're on the audio podcast, you won't hear this, but I'm curious if you resonate with any of these channels. So if you use ViewStats, and ViewStats is created by Mr. Beast and his team, you could go to the public free website, look up someone's channel like Alex Catoni, and then click on similar channels. And then what it does is it links to just, now what I'm curious is, I know Marley Jacks as well, for example, she's on there with you. She's much more video marketing, but she's associated with you at some level. Tanya Eliza is another friend of mine as well. She's kind of done network marketing in the past and expanded out of that as well. Do any of these channels resonate with you, or you're like, no, I don't recognize any of those channels?
What's funny is I do know Miles, but none of the other names ring a bell. So like, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole after this and like, check.
So you might do this for yourself, depending on, you actually need a channel large enough to see the data. But I think the other thing we're looking at here would be, if you find someone like, you're like, wait, I do copywriting as well. I clicked on this video because I love Alex, and like, is it too crowded? Well, you start with somebody like an Alex Catoni, and then check out these other channels, and then do it again. And of course, I think about adjacencies, because it wouldn't necessarily just be only copywriting, but you might look at other business owners, maybe broader entrepreneurs, and then maybe even you look at Think Media. Like, we talk about cameras, where lots of entrepreneurs watch this, but we're talking about YouTube tips. So the bottom line is the rabbit hole. And if you were, though, to encourage the business owner that wants to move fast and not get stuck, how long they should do this with enough information to get started, give me a start-stop time that I can put on my Google Calendar for my research section, get some ideas, get some tips, and then press record so I don't get stuck doing this too long.
Exactly. Honestly, I think in half a day, you could have more than enough information to at least map out a good 3 to 4 months of content. Like it's so easy to get into that place of I need to gather more information before I take action. So like give yourself, like go to a coffee shop, get a coffee, go down the rabbit hole, give yourself a cutoff time, and then map out your first 10 videos, which is the fifth tip.
Yes, I love that. So we're going to get to the first 10 videos. I do want to recommend, check out the show notes, use that free tool and view stats. If I had to choose personally from a YouTube expertise standpoint, and I was going to invest my money as a business owner, I would grab vidIQ. I believe their boost plan at $20. It also has the same outlier features that 1 of 10 has. 1 of 10 also, I actually pay for all the tools personally because it's my job, I suppose. You know, it's what I focus on. But if you had to pick one, I'd pick vidIQ. But the fact you can use that view stats tool for free, again, this would be a super packed show notes episode. All right, so let's get into number 5, which is map out your first 10 videos. And in just a moment, I also do want to talk to you just a little bit about how you script your videos. And then the number 1 thing every business owner needs to be doing on YouTube as we land the plane in a second. But step number 5 is map out your first 10 videos. How would you do this? Explain this process.
So everything I do, and I know you do this too, because we talked about this before we pushed record, is hook first. Hook first, hook first. The only way I can kind of explain the importance of thinking of a hook and a title first is how many times, or if this has ever happened to you, let's say you do a podcast episode or you write something and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go promote this. And you're like, oh, there's nothing that I wrote or said in this podcast that is a really juicy hook. So thinking about the hook first and then creating the content to satisfy the hook. And so what my process looks like is I do this research, I go down the rabbit hole, I come up with like my 5 content buckets. Let's say for my first 10 videos, I'm going to do a video in each one of those buckets. Okay, great. Again, might do a little bit of keyword research. And here is the thing I highly recommend in the beginning. Like SEO is important when you're just getting started on YouTube, even though it is so boring, because I think as a copywriter, I'm always wanting to get really fancy with titles and like open a loop and have a cliffhanger and all that. But to get traction early on in YouTube, before YouTube knows who are you and who do you help and who should I serve your content to, they're really looking to see what keywords you're using and what you're talking about in your videos. And so that's where a tool like vidIQ is so helpful. Is you're like, okay, let's say I want to do a topic or a video on mindset, and you might go type mindset into vidIQ, and then it'll suggest other content. It'll suggest certain titles, which will then trigger this thought like, oh, I could totally talk about that. And it reminds you of something. And so coming up with the hooks first for those first 10 videos, once I come up with the hook, I sit down and I write the thumbnail text right away. Like I almost want to see the video before I've even recorded it. It's so important to have a little bit of that like future thinking, that future pacing of how do I want this video to look? How do I want it to feel? In the thumbnail, do I want to be holding anything? Do I want to be pointing to something? If so, what is it? And then I need to incorporate that into my video. So it's all created with both the written hook and the visual hook in mind first. Then I go out to scripting my video word for word. And then I go in and I add comments for visuals that I want to have pop up during the video. So if I am referencing something or talking about a student or doing something, I make sure I put in all of those cues, because if you are able to do all of that before you actually go to record, you're able to talk about like, oh, and this is, and say this is, and you know that you're going to have something pop up on the screen when you say that. So it just creates a better experience for the viewer. And then I do that. I map out my 10 videos. I batch create 2 to 4. I used to be way better at doing 4 all the time. Now it's like whenever I can get one done, and then I record.
And you are scripting and reading from a teleprompter.
Yeah, always.
You recommend that?
I mean, like I said, I do, because I tend to ramble. And so while I do think it sacrifices a little bit of my personality, I'm going back to that notion that YouTube is a search engine. People just want their answers. So I try to keep my content concise and very, very scripted in that way.
Do you happen to know what gear you're using? If someone's thinking about like, how do I set a teleprompter up? Did you buy a nice one? Do you use like one of those little phone screw-on ones?
Yeah, so the one I have is called the Parrot, like the bird, Parrot teleprompter. It basically, well, I can take it off. I mean, for those watching on video, because I'm not using a teleprompter right now, I can show you. It just looks like that. So it slides right on to the front of my camera. Then there's a little like drawer here. I have an extra iPhone that I just keep in my office that basically I only use as a teleprompter, and it slides right in. And that's it. I have a little remote. And practice makes perfect. I think in the beginning I felt like Ron Burgundy, and now I'm a little better at it.
And I would actually have that same teleprompter. For me, if I shoot ads, sometimes sales videos, VSLs, and everything's written out, I just screw it onto my camera just as you said. And so that's another thing that we will make sure is in the show notes. It takes a little, I think there's some extemporaneous opportunities as well where you could communicate without a teleprompter. Depends on your own style, your own time. I think it's its own skill set to learn how to do it naturally. And that's certainly how you come across in your videos. But when we think about adding value to the viewer, it's like being long-winded, is because you didn't prepare, but then they have to sit through it. Whereas the reverse is being crafted and specific. I mean, you have over 300,000 subscribers, so success leaves clues that you crafting your content, going through this process, you've got a multi-million-dollar business. You're listening to this. What are you hoping to achieve? Do you want a multi-million-dollar business? There's something about mastery. So anyways, if that's a really cool way to do it, the Parrot teleprompter, I should get a separate phone because I use my phone and then calls come in. I'm like super frustrated. I should have turned it on to airplane mode. And I just download like this Prompter Plus app, whichever one I could find. And so title and hook, a little bit of keyword research, script it out. You might have 10 weeks planned, but when you sit down and film, you're shooting 2 to 4 in a batch. And I would encourage, of course, there's different formats. You don't have to do Alex's style. You might do an interview like this. And if you prepare, of course, this is not a teleprompter, but there was a lot of prep that went in here. And if anything, my 2 cents would be at least have maybe your hook scripted, your points articulated with a few notes, and work off of an outline at least, and then that could help you then sit down and record. Let's go a little bit deeper into now scripting out a video. There's basically 7 steps if I want to kind of outline a video that I have. And the first one is the hook. Walk us through these of what, like, if we now want to structure a great video from a copywriting legend like yourself as well, how can we have a YouTube script formula that turns viewers into customers and grows our channels?
Awesome. Yeah. So I think the most important lesson to talk about here is this idea of an open loop. And many of you watching this probably know what an open loop is, but it's a concept that seeks the brain, where the brain seeks out to get some sort of conclusion for this loop that's been opened in their brain. And I think a really big mistake that people make when they do YouTube content or any form of content is they open a loop and then they immediately close it. So that might look like me opening a loop in the headline, and then the first 20 seconds of the video, I'm telling you what you came for. So how I like to script my videos, the first thing is the hook, but I already talked about the title, like the written hook and the visual hook. Well, there's also the pre-bumper, I guess you could call it, the pre-bumper hook, which is the first 5 to 10 seconds of your video. Now, what you want to do there is you want to reiterate that hook, which is why they're on your video. Again, a big mistake that I see people make is that people are clicking the video because of the title and the thumbnail. And then when they get on your video, you just start randomly talking about something else. And they're like, whoa, that's not why I came here. So I truly just reiterate what I said in the title, but in a way that's more, mysterious, I guess you could say. Like, I never say, hey guys, as my first lines in my video. I skip the pleasantries until after the bumper. I go right into, do you want to know the 5 marketing trends that are taking the world by storm in 2025? You are definitely not going to believe number 1. Stick around to the end, where I share that. And then I say, keep watching. And then, so that's the hook, right? It's reiterating why they're there. You're opening a loop to get them to keep watching. Then it's the bumper, which is the, music, the whatever you want to have, which again, I've heard people say, like, what's the point? I personally do it because I think, one, it elevates my brand. It makes me human. It makes me relatable. It also tells my audience immediately, like, the type of person I am. I'm like walking down the street. I'm like, it's very chill. It's very Sex and the City-esque. That was the inspo for it. Definitely need to update it. Haven't updated it in 5 years, but it works. That's short, though. But again, reinforcing, right? People learn to love it. Like, I used royalty-free audio. I've like heard it used in commercials and stuff before, the exact same tune. I'll literally have people send me DMs like with a video of the commercial being like, they're using your music. I'm like, it's funny how even just one jingle people are now associating with my brand. So I think it's important. Then after the bumper, that's when I really quickly as possible, try to say the things that are important to say at the beginning of the video. I say always, every video I start the same. I say, hey Posse, what's up? It's Alex. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the blah, blah, blah. So there I am reinforcing the hook again. But then I'll say, if you're new to the crew, here on my channel, I talk about, tell them what they're going to get. So if they are new subscribers, they're like, oh, okay, that is actually something I want to learn more about. If you're new to the crew, here on my channel, I share copywriting, marketing, and branding tips to help you grow your business online. If that sounds cool to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring that bell to be notified when my next video goes live. Like, literally, I could like say that a million times over the exact same way. So I say that as quickly as I can. And then sometimes, and YouTube hates this, when I say YouTube, I mean YouTube people. I'll put like an intro that has some really important, necessary context about what I'm talking about. Every time I do that, people comment and they're like, get to the point. Like, people just want you to get to whatever it is you promised. So try to keep the intro as tight as possible. I'll then, before I get to the content, I'll try to open another loop, because I know that once I get to the content, people are going to start dropping off, right? Because like they're here for the 5 things. They'll start dropping off after 2 things if the first 2 things aren't blowing their minds. So I try to usually open another loop right before I get to the content that will hopefully get them to stay to the end. So I'll say something like, all right, we're going to dive into the 5 marketing predictions, my 5 marketing predictions for 2025. And when you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you, kind of like you did in this podcast episode, Sean, to stay to the end. And then I go into the teaching points, the frameworks, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s. And then at the very end of the 5th tip, I try as quickly as possible to wrap it up. I never do an outro. I never recap, because what happens, your retention just falls off. Like, nobody wants a recap. So I'll literally say the 5th tip, and I won't even say, and there you have it. Those are the 5. I mean, sometimes I do if it really feels awkward if I don't, but I usually will just go, and if you want to get your hands on that free blah, blah, blah that I told you about earlier, click the link in the description box below to get your hands on that. And I'll see you next week with a brand new video. Until then, I'm Alex. Ciao for now. And that's how I end my videos. So it's very intentional with sort of every little segment of the script.
Yeah, so the 7-part $1 million YouTube script structure is hook, open loop, bumper, welcome with a call to action, another open loop, content and teaching points, and number 7, a hard close, closing fast because people are going to jump off the video anyways. And you know what I love about you talking about the concept of open loops is, like, you're absolutely right. When people jump on a video, they're so quick to jump off if you don't give them a reason to stay. And more entertainment content, there was somebody who studied 733 Mr. Beast videos, who is, of course, one of the greatest YouTubers, more entertainment content. But they discovered this Fitch and Curve thing where there was like crisis and tension and a reason to watch, not just right at the beginning of the video, but throughout the video. Sometimes they call it raising the stakes. And so I think what's fascinating is a lot of people have talked about, of course, try to hook people and open a loop. But if you can continuously do that in content in a 2025 world, that is such a powerful tip. Data from Meta also revealed, from really analyzing people's attention spans, that when people click on a video, you've got like 2 seconds, which sounds wild, but it even just speaks to the fact that what are the first words you're saying in your video? How quickly are you cutting to the chase? And I would say, like, listeners, they might be like, this isn't new. I know there should be a hook, but let me just encourage you, like, triple down on hooks in regards to today's landscape and being that much more intentional with what is seen, heard. And I also like this concept of the bumper, because there could almost be an argument where that bumpers were unnecessary or you shouldn't have them. But my opinion's kind of changed on this. In a world where there is so much competition, you hit it so strongly, brand is not talked about enough. So maybe the idea of like, oh, just get to the content, just so rapid fire. But if you're going to have any stickiness to your brand and any super fans that are developed, like old school radio is a powerful lesson for us. Jingles, old school advertising, like audio branding, like these things. And so again, for that passerby that may be like, she's not going fast enough, I'm just desperate for content, I'm out of here. Well, that's one thing, but what about your super fans? What about the people that stick with you? And so I think having a bumper, now my recommendation is that I think you could do it like 5 seconds is a good length for that. Yours is probably less than 10 seconds, I would say.
It's definitely less than 10 seconds. I should look at exactly how long it is, but it's definitely less than 10. And on to that point, like, this is funny. It's kind of like what people say they want versus what they actually want, or like what actually is working. And nobody wants a long intro, but I've gone back and I've analyzed all of my best videos that have the highest rate of monetization, where I make the most money, where I get the most leads, and my intros are long. And I'm like, I'm not going to just stop doing that because some douchebag's commenting in the comments like, this girl needs to speed up, you know? I'm just like, I'm going to keep doing my thing, so.
I love that you said that too, because man, haters math is like, there's the one negative comment, but the data speaks for itself. Sometimes I just see the comment, but it's like, what's the audience retention curve? What's the like to dislike ratio? I'll get one negative comment and I'll be like, this video is a total failure. Yes, the like to dislike ratio is 98%. If I got 98% on my test in high school, my mom would have been a lot more proud and happy about it. But yet, I'm like, oh, Roblox 22 didn't like me in the video?
With no picture? Yeah, like, who are you, dude? Yeah.
So, like, that's really great. Looking at the data, reviewing it as it goes. Okay, so we hit the 5 steps, really, the framework for the YouTube starter guide of the 5 things we need to know, the 7 steps in your $1 million YouTube script structure. Really, the last question is this most important thing that ultimately, even if you're building a great YouTube channel, you're building on rented land, and you talk about why every business owner and every YouTuber content creator also needs to be building an email list. As we just close, let me know a little bit about why this is important and what you do in your videos to do so. And I want to make sure you do have a free resource that is all about list building. I'll make sure that's in the show notes. We can talk about that in a second, but just speak to this big idea of why we've done all this stuff up to this point. But man, we also got to be thinking about capturing our audience and not just relying on a YouTube subscriber. What's the importance of an email list?
Oh, I mean, it's everything. It's one, you said it, like, you own your email list. Like, you own that asset in your business. You own the right to communicate to them until they unsubscribe, and you get to control what they see and they don't see. You know, well, YouTube is better, I think, than platforms like Instagram, where your reach all of a sudden just, tanks. Or I don't know if you know, but this morning you probably know Facebook and Instagram crashed, and I'm just like, what's happening? Luckily, I can still communicate with my people through email. It's absolutely everything. I mean, it's the most profitable marketing medium. I think, my email list, when I started building it from YouTube, and here's why I think YouTube plus email is like the magic, is when people were getting on my email list, they had probably already watched like 3 to 5 videos of mine. I'm kind of guessing, but I don't put a call to action in every single video. So let's say they watched 3 to 5 and then they got on my video or on my email list. When I did my first launch in 2020 in January, I thought my list was freaking small potatoes compared to some of the lists that I'd been managing as a copywriter and marketer for the 10 years previous. I mean, I had clients with millions of emails on their list. And so I had kind of a general idea of what your earnings per lead kind of looked like on a marketing list. And if you were getting like $1, you were like, wow, that's amazing, right? And so I'm looking at my numbers and I'm like, I got 2,350 people on my email list. Am I absolutely crazy to be launching a $2,000 program that I'm going to be teaching live, like if I apply the metrics that I know, I'm going to get one sale, maybe if I'm lucky. And because my list was built from YouTube, people who already felt like they knew, liked, and trusted me, those 2,300 people were not just like quick, cold landing page opt-ins, whatever. They were people who had consumed my content, related to what I was saying, then took the extra effort to go sign up. So when I did my first launch and made $86,000, my earnings per lead was like something ridiculous, like over $50. And I'm like, oh my God, like suck on that. Like I was so freaking like excited. And I realized it was because of the power of YouTube. And so I feel like anybody who, wants to start seeing more connection in their audiences, wants to start serving their customers at a higher level, wants to start using YouTube, building your email list is going to be the fastest path to monetize off the platform. And you're going to make way more than YouTube ever pays you.
Yeah, I totally agree. We had Donald Miller on the podcast. He said an email lead is worth over $50 actually, if you're doing it right. And
love that. His head copywriter is from the Posse.
Wow, there you go. And
yeah, or maybe not head copywriter, one of them.
I want to encourage listeners. There's this whole parallel skill set to like you're starting your YouTube channel, you're wanting to grow on YouTube. As you build your email list though, like you do want to actually email them. Like that's actually one of the big, I've seen some people, they start that step and they're like, I was like, when's the last time you sent an email? They're like, oh, I haven't in like, a year. You're like, okay, well, we're going to need to actually email them or be thinking about that, which is a conversation for another time. But you do have a resource. I actually pulled up the page here, 50 subject lines that drive more clicks and engagement, real data, surprising twists, and actionable insights from 50 subject line split tests, which there's a whole art form to email, and this is a free resource you have. So we'll link this up in the show notes. And definitely if you're listening and you are committed to everything we're talking about, plus of course you could get more information from Alex. I've learned this. I'm not a copywriter, although I think I'm not that bad. And, if you made it this far, to clarify what that means too, we're not talking about like copyright music or like copywritten content on YouTube. We're talking about copywriting with, WRITER. And this becoming a better copywriter makes you a better YouTube content creator. Like I've studied all Ogilvy and all these different things. It helps me write better scripts. It helps me think different. So those that subscribe to your channel and follow what you're doing, it's a huge skill set that'll help every digital entrepreneur. And of course, business owners listening to this, you probably already understand the power, or maybe there's somebody on your team that you need to get following Alex. So we'll link up into the show notes. I want you to give a shout out to your stuff. But grab that free resource. We'll, of course, link to Alex's channels as well. But anything else that you're doing right now that people can do as far as following you?
Yeah, you can just find me on YouTube, of course, Alex Catoni. I'm also Alex Catoni on Instagram. And yeah, it's just always fun to chat about all things. So I'm happy to come back and do a part 2.
Yeah, well, I would love to definitely do that because there's so many more questions I have for you. But in the meantime, just thank you for adding so much value today. And Think Media Podcast listeners, subscribe, like, rate, review wherever you watch or listen. My name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel, and I'll connect with you in a future episode.
16E has a durable design and ceramic shield because the average person drops their phone 208 times a year. Make that 209 once they see the price. iPhone 16e, latest iPhone, greatest price.
50% off any pizza, including new Parmesan stuffed crust? Yep, but it's this week only at Domino's.
Monetized in 60 days using just an iPhone. How did that happen?
So, it takes a lot of time. The growth may look fast for my channel, but I put in a lot of time.
This is the antiviral strategy. You have 7 different ways that you're earning money now, which is wild.
You have a phone, so just hit record and go.
In today's episode of the Think Media Podcast, we're going to be learning some tactical tips for getting more views and growing your YouTube channel. And my guest today is going to be sharing how she got monetized in 60 days using just an iPhone, which she still uses today. She's also going to be breaking down kind of the morning show method, this idea that you could turn in casual viewers to a strong community with daily content that she didn't expect to do when she first started out. She's also going to reveal her 7 different income streams that are now earning more than she earned in her entire corporate career previously, and also why maybe ignoring social media could be a good idea, and why maybe you should focus on one platform because that could lead to faster growth. Kayla from His Word My Walk is your girl next door. Her vision is that you would grab tea or some coffee, get cozy, and then sit down and grow in your relationship with God. Her channel is all about Bible study and helping people understand the Bible, and her journey has been super inspiring, and there's a lot of lessons we can learn for no matter what kind of channel you're starting, whether you're more established or whether you are just getting started with YouTube. Kayla, welcome to the Think Media Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to be talking to you, and I want to, in our kind of like opening speed round, just learn a few tactical tips, which one of the most fascinating things from your story is you went from 0 to getting monetized in 60 days using just your iPhone. What do you think led to that? How did that happen?
I had to get rid of the excuses. I think technology is always an excuse that we can make, or even a reason. For me, it was a reason why I didn't start. But to be very honest, I did the 1K challenge with Think Media, and that kind of taught me how to format my videos a little bit better. And so I just went for it. And my second video took off to get me monetized, and from there is where I kind of shifted my channel to keep moving forward.
That's so cool. And how many videos do you think you posted in those first 60 days?
Well, it was 3 originally, and then I did a 30-day, what I thought was going to be a 30-day sprint. I did 28 videos in 30 days, going through the book of Matthew chapter by chapter to teach what people had been asking for. And then I continued on from there.
So I think that 30-day sprint had a lot to do with the early momentum that your channel built. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I looked at that one video that got monetized or got me monetized. The comments in there were people saying, can you help me? Can you help me do this? Can you help me be consistent? How can I really do this? And I was like, oh, well, I can show you. So let's do it together. I'll do it for 30 days. And that built a community immediately, and grew to almost this responsibility that there are people here now and a community growing. So I felt like I couldn't stop.
Okay, so I think I better understand now. What you're saying is you had an original 3 videos, and one of those videos really broke out, and like single-handedly got you monetized. Do you remember what video that was?
Yeah, it was how to read the Bible consistently.
Okay, and so you had a breakout video, but then off of that video, not only did that video get you monetized, got you some channel growth, that inspired the 30-day sprint, which ultimately shaped your channel and what you're doing today.
Exactly.
Wow, that's so cool. And so I'm excited to come back and learn a little bit more about how you've been building a community and what your channel has evolved into. But my second question is, a lot of creators feel pressure to focus on every platform. What was your mindset? You're at 31,000 subscribers now, and did you ignore other social media platforms and decide to go all in on YouTube?
Yeah, it wasn't by choice or by strategy. As I started posting on YouTube daily for those 30 days, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to go back to Instagram, and because or any other platforms, and because my audience was growing and the people that I was serving were there, and it was an entirely new audience. It wasn't, I could tell by some of the things, it wasn't converting over. And so I just kind of triple down, quadruple down, whatever you want to call it, on my YouTube audience, because it was taking my energy, but also I was willing to give that time. And so I just let the other ones kind of go by the wayside and figured I'll come back to them at some point.
Of course, everybody's experience is different, and there's so much value in a lot of the different social media platforms. But knowing what you know today, if you were to look back, do you feel like that is pretty strategic when you think about the power, the search-based nature of YouTube, even the ability to fund the mission with money you can make from YouTube, that actually focusing solely on YouTube might be a good idea for some listeners?
Tired of chasing algorithms? Discover human first SEO with CSP Agency. We blend authentic connections with powerful search optimization. Visit csp.agency to get your human first marketing guide today.
Lean Cuisine. You could lose up to 18 pounds in 12 weeks with ridiculously tasty meals always under 400 calories. Flavorful, not calorie-full meals. Lean Cuisine.
I think it turned out to be probably the greatest decision that I didn't make. I think it really, really helped me. It helped me focus. It helped me focus on who I was actually serving and not trying to be popular or trying to be trendy, but to truly follow the mission that I was there for. And whoever God brought to the platform is who I was there to serve. And I wasn't trying to get things mixed up. I wasn't trying to hit everybody. I was truly where the growth was happening. And yeah, to see the opportunities ahead, that's where they were coming from.
Man, I feel like in a 2025 world, focus has always been important, but like there's more noise than ever before. There's more platforms than ever before. And even as an individual, as a creator, as a business owner, it can be so easy to get your mind all tangled with so many things to do. So just the power of narrowing down is interesting. But like you said, the greatest decision you didn't actually consciously make, but in doing so, it led to so many cool things. I love those insights. And I'm also, to be clear, you also kind of focused on a format. And have you dabbled with YouTube Shorts or anything? Or have you focused even not just on YouTube? Because to a point, YouTube itself could be distracting. Well, if I'm on YouTube, I need to do all the things on YouTube. But have you focused on even just kind of one singular promise, even within the YouTube ecosystem?
Yeah, I tried for the first probably month, I tried everything. I think I have probably 5 shorts sitting there that are all from last May. And so once I developed this, like, okay, we're going to continue this every day kind of thing, or 5 days a week, 6 days a week, I really just zeroed in on that. It's what I had the capacity to do, but also it's where I was serving the most people, and it's where I felt really purposeful. And I wasn't, and still am not trying to trend or whatever God's going to do, he's going to do. And I love that, but I'm really focused on the community that I'm serving in a way that now they expect.
This is powerful. I just talked to Noah Kagan on the podcast, and he built AppSumo. He's got 1 million subscribers on kind of a business entrepreneur channel. But what I'm also hearing is he highly recommends experimentation. So I think some people, they hear your story, my story, somebody else's story, they think it's that one size fits all, because shorts are great, but also long form is great. Video podcasting is great, and so is Instagram. But man, when you find your thing and your format, and also what's connected to your mission and your strength, that's such an amazing place to be. And man, I feel like the disciplined pursuit of doing less, you narrowed into your 5 to 6 day a week show, served the most, but also sounds like it served your mission the most. And essentially what Noah Kagan recommended was, if you've done a lot of tests and experiments, you tried 5 shorts, you maybe tried a different format, you tried this, what can you then eventually identify that's working and that is in alignment, and then really narrow down on that? I think that's really inspiring. Now, you have a video that's it's called Bible Journaling, and it hit 63,000 views without any fancy production. You've got a lot of videos on your channel that now have grown and gotten some significant views. Do you have any kind of formula for creating the structure of your videos that you've learned from some of your most viewed videos?
Well, a lot of them go day by day, right? So if you look at my channel, I'm reading through the Bible chapter by chapter. We've now gone through 16 books of the Bible chapter by chapter. So that helps my format. It is very similar every day. But my desire is to have once a week an actual teaching video, a more practical how to live this life. And that's where Bible journaling came in, and how to elevate your prayer life, how to spend more time with God, those kind of videos that I structure in a way of more teaching. Here's 3 ways you can do this. Here's 5 ways that you can do this. I come from an elite athlete background and personal training. And so like having practical, here's how you actually walk this out, really helps me in the way that I learn. So I realize that's also how I like to teach.
Interesting. So, and have you found that it's those 1 per week teaching videos that have been the ones that have garnered more views over time?
Yes and no. That's my plan. My plan is that those are the more searchable ones. Those are the ones that are going to bring people to my channel. But as I've seen, as I started off in May going through the book of Matthew, those ones are now, people are still finding them. They're some of my highest watch videos from May 1st, some of my highest watch videos every month, which as we get to that, some of my most income stream bringing videos, even to this day. So I have a format. But I also just kind of like let it flow, whether I'm teaching or reading with my community as well.
Man.
I love my natural hair, but not what hoodies were doing to it. So I made my own. Chasing Philly helps my business grow, one hoodie at a time.
Get financial guidance from bankers in your community and convenient digital tools all in one place. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours.
Razor bumps? Finish shave with a touch of aloe. Venus Extra Smooth Sensitive.
And that's cool. It's cool to hear the buckets too. You've got chapter by chapter, you've got the one per week. And in both cases, we'll circle back to that a little bit later because I want to get some insights out of that. But let's dive into a little bit of a deeper strategy. And before we kind of get into these tactical things, I would love to zoom out a bit and give us just kind of a timeline of who you are, how you ended up doing this, your passion for this topic, what inspired you to start in the first place, and how long you've been at this YouTube journey.
Yeah, I mean, going backwards, I started YouTube in just April of 2024, so not even a year ago. But before that, I had an audio podcast teaching once a week for 2.5 years. And I've just learned so many things that like being diligent and working hard, when no one really listens, or it's your mom and her friends, or all of a sudden there's 100 people a week. And so I was just faithful. I just stayed consistent. I learned how to speak on a mic. I learned how to teach. I did it every single week. And then when it came time to teaching on video, besides the technology, I knew how to speak already, and I knew how to speak on a mic, and I knew all of that stuff. And it goes back even further to growing in my relationship with God and getting consistent reading before I teach. And I'm just one of those people that like, I won't teach it as soon as I learn it. I gotta work it out for at least 6 months, maybe even a year, before I start to share with other people. I want to make sure that I'm consistent. And all of that comes from even like childhood and growing up. I've been disciplined in what I do and consistent, and that was a big part of who I am. And so let me help teach other people how to do it too.
You also mentioned being an elite athlete. What was your experience there?
I was a basketball player. I grew up in Canada, but I went to high school in Arizona to play ball there, and then came back in college to Canada and won a national championship, and ended up working for the NBA for almost a decade. And yeah, sports was a huge part of my life.
Oh, man, it's interesting that we're hearing about your YouTube success, and I see so many principles that are transferable to all of us. If we have more discipline, we're going to get better results. Things like that we learn in sports are incredibly valuable: resilience and persistence. I also like hearing it's like your YouTube journey is wild. People are listening like, man, monetize in 60 days, so fast, your growth even to today, and all of that. But yet it's sort of like we don't see the roots that go underneath the surface that are totally invisible before we see the springing out fruit or the tree that grows. We're like, wow, look, it came out of nowhere. It's like, it came out of actually all of these years of development. And I also love the idea of basically 2 years of practice, 2 years audio podcasts only, but growing as a communicator, finding your voice. If you are, encouraging listeners about the fact that maybe some are further along in their career and they might plug right into YouTube and get rapid success, but also the mindset needed for, having, say, realistic expectations with what it really takes to build a successful YouTube channel based on your experience.
Time. Like, it takes a lot of time. Like, the growth of a channel may look fast for my channel, but I put in a lot of time. This isn't a hobby for me, and it never was. And I actually didn't start YouTube to have it be my main source of income. I started it out of obedience, probably delayed obedience, but like started it for continuing on the way that I was teaching, and felt like it was the next step where God was calling me. And I had no idea that thousands of people would come. I had no idea that this is how I would continue teaching. I started it for the mission and for the people that I wanted to help. And I think that really shifted so much for me. And to see the growth now, it's even like more inspiring, and I'm even more in awe, because it truly is, it's just me. Like, I'm the girl with the niece and nephew that's playing freezeball tag. And like when someone recognizes you in an airport and, you know, can you pray for me? Yes, I can, but I'm still just the same girl that was there when there were 2 subscribers.
Man, I love that. And actually today, what is the full production? Are you a solo woman show here?
I'm a solo woman show. I plug my phone into my computer still every week or almost every day if I haven't batch recorded something and edit it myself. I actually, Sean, you will be proud, I just hired someone 2 days ago. I was so excited to be able to say that to you, to help me with some back end things, some tasks that I need to put systems in place as I continue to grow, but it's been just me.
And I am curious, so what do you mean that you plug your phone into your computer? For someone listening, if they want to tap into their phone camera, plug it into their computer, how do you capture it and then how do you edit it?
Yeah, I use, I use OBS Studio. And so I wanted a place where I could see what was on my camera, but I knew I had to use the back camera of my phone. Like I didn't know all of this when I didn't know it. And so I can plug it right into my computer and use just the camera from my phone, but then I can still see what it looks like. But it actually helps me because I talk just to the phone screen. Like I don't see myself, I'm not distracted. I talk just to the phone. Behind my phone is my closet full of clothes. Like I'm truly just me. My whole way of teaching is like, grab your cup of tea, cup of coffee, let's sit down together. Super casual. Editing is pretty simple. I'm putting scripture on the screen, but if I sneeze, people in the comments say, bless you. Like I'm not editing a whole lot of other stuff.
Man, that's cool. And it's cool to hear, okay, so OBS Studio, and what you mean by the back camera for listeners, you know, you do have a selfie camera, but on every phone, it's never as good. And what's nice is because while you do have a monitor on your laptop screen because of the OBS Studio software, you are able to look at your phone without getting distracted. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is not making eye contact with the lens, which is sometimes hard to do because you see yourself or you're trying to frame it. So those are really good practical tips and just speaks to, it's not about our resources, it's about our resourcefulness. I want to dive into this idea of daily routine content. So we were talking before we pressed record. I feel like this could be called the morning show model. And for anybody listening, maybe you've watched Good Morning America before. Maybe you remember when there was a show called Live with Regis and Kelly. Today it's Kelly and Ryan Live. And this idea of consistent daily timing, a mix of structured content and natural moments, hosts who feel like friends, community interaction, and this morning ritual aspect. You say, grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab your greens, meet me every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday with your Bible and your notebook, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the best compliments you get is I'm reading my Bible with a friend. Explain how this all came about. And you mentioned it came off of this 30-day sprint, but how did the show evolve and what have you learned from this process? Hey, we're about to get back into the podcast in just a second, but I have a question for you. Do you want to grow your personal brand this year? Do you need more leads and sales in your business? If the answer is yes, then right now is the best time to go all in on YouTube. Today's podcast is brought to you by thinkmasterclass.com, where you can get on-demand access to a 1-hour deep dive training revealing how to start and grow a profitable YouTube channel this year. For a limited time, you can get access to this on-demand class entirely for free, where you will learn the 3 biggest mistakes that people make when starting a YouTube channel, the new rules and changes that have been happening on YouTube and how you can use them to create an unfair advantage, and the exact strategy we use at Think Media to generate over 350,000 organic views every single day. The data is clear. 70% of viewers claim that YouTube makes them more aware of new brands. So don't wait any longer to start growing your brand and business with YouTube. Just go to thinkmasterclass.com to get access to this no-fluff, highly tactical, free on-demand training. That's thinkmasterclass.com.
Well, what I learned after those 30 days was I couldn't do it every day. That I needed a break. And I honestly didn't think I was going to continue. After those 30 days, my plan was 1 video a week. My plan was, this is going to be my sprint. I didn't realize I was going to get monetized before this happened. But once the people showed up, I felt like I had to continue serving them, and I had the means to do it. And so I did. And so I made a commitment that I fight hard against not having a Monday to Friday routine, but having it be every day. So I knew I wanted to include a weekend day, which is why we take Wednesdays off. So every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a video goes live at 6 a.m. and the next chapter. And so they know what's coming. I encourage you to read it before you get here. The videos are usually 20 to 30 minutes is kind of the average of how long it takes us to go through a chapter, and they know what to expect. And they show up. And then there are some people who show up every day when they got off work in the UK at 2 p.m. and grab their tea, and like they're in the comments. And the comment section has become incredibly inspiring for me, and given me questions of what content to create later. But I just continued on, and truly the people that I started to serve continue to push me to move forward. So I just set up, if I can record 3 or 4 at a time to get me set up for the week, that's my ideal. But a lot of days it is the night before, recording it and editing it. And that's where, like I say, I work well under pressure. That like athlete in me still rises up, that I have a commitment to other people. And so it will get done. It will get done and it will get published because there's a team out there depending on me to do it.
Man, that's cool. And I like, so sometimes you're batching 3 to 4. So you would do the chapter, record 20 to 30 minutes, maybe you record all 4, then throw them all in your timeline, edit them all, get ahead.
Yeah.
Have you ever broken your schedule since this started?
No.
You have not.
I have not. I speak openly and honestly about like grace days if I need one. The only time the schedule broke was in December. My computer completely crashed and nothing was retrievable. And there's no Apple store in the place that I live. And at the time I was building a Bethlehem village at my church. And so I put a post and was like, here's the situation. And my community was there. But other than that, no, I have not.
And then, so you've been very consistent doing it. Yep. You create a routine. You've stuck with the routine. Are you planning on then just reading every chapter in the entire Bible?
Yeah, it's wild how many chapters there actually are when you think about it and how long that would actually take. So I don't know. I tell my community all the time, like wherever God leads, I'm willing to go. And I don't see this stopping anytime soon, but if it does, it does. And I'm open to that as well.
That's 1,189 chapters
exactly.
in the entire Bible. So
people don't realize that when you're trying to read it in a year, if you go chapter by chapter, but the results of growth that people are getting is what's keeping me going just the way we're going.
So that would take 3 years and 3 months, but you do it, what, 6 days a week or 5 days?
5 Bible chapters a week.
Wow. So it maybe kind of stretches out to maybe like 4 years that would take.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And so what I love about this, the next question, is a lot of creators chase viral moments. And a lot of creators, what I love about this is it's kind of like, this is the antiviral strategy. You've had some videos over time, like you said, since last May have really grown, but you've built your channel through daily connection and really a community first approach. And I think that listeners should really lean in for this. We talked to Shalene Johnson a while back, and she was like, community is the way forward in social media right now. Because if information is abundant, it's interesting, like people even going viral, like we see viral videos all the time, especially vertical videos. We're like, wow, we see it. Maybe it has 27 million views, but what's the connection? Meanwhile, you've just been so focused on this community first approach. And I think it's so powerful to have real connections, real relationships. Can you walk us through, I mean, you've kind of touched on it, but your mindset in regards to that and how maybe we could benefit as creators ourselves to stop chasing viral and start building community?
Well, for me, it's just about the impact. Like truly, this wasn't my, 10K, 20K a month strategy for life. So it was different from the start for me. YouTube was not my gateway to, buy houses and all the things. However, I have paid my mom's mortgage, like through YouTube. So that was like a huge goal of mine that just happened. So I'm super...
You paid your mom's mortgage off?
No, not off. Just for a month.
You are now...
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
But it was the impact of the people. And so that's what truly has kept me going. So like I realized that I have a solution for a problem that other people have, which is why most of us create a YouTube channel. But their problem meant so much to me. And the fact that I had a solution meant so much to me that how could I not continue to give it? And that's kind of what has grown our community. Now they're inviting friends, and obviously the algorithm kicks in and certain things, but it truly for me has always been about the impact, and other sources of income have been coming too.
And you mentioned that you actually didn't go into it thinking that it was going to be a source of income. What was your source of income previous?
You know, I had a rough couple years as the world kind of shut down. I got stuck in a different country. My dad passed away. It was figuring out life. You know, life changed drastically for me in a matter of 4 years. So there wasn't much. It was trying to figure out, what do I do online? How do I? So this would be great, but yet I refuse to let people's relationship with God be like this pawn to pad my bank account. There's just something like in my heart that couldn't go that way. So the fact that this has grown, and the fact that, you know, this is silly, but one screenshot someone sent me was like a foot fungus commercial that came on my YouTube. And I'm like, well, the fact that the foot fungus guy will pay me to preach the gospel, like I'm in. Yeah. And that's truly what progressed me to want to keep going and to want to build, was to see the opportunities with that.
And this is your full-time thing now. How would you say your time breaks down a week? And you mentioned getting over 50 comments daily. How are you sustaining, trying to reply to them, shooting, editing, planning, and making this sustainable? Like how long? Today, you're making good income. You're supported by doing this. So you have money for the mission. But what kind of time does it take to sustain what you're creating?
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm working a 9 to 5. Like, yeah. and I treat it like that. Sure, there are days that I go out and do other things, but I truly had to look at how I was stewarding my time. And to be really honest, Sean has been telling me to hire an editor for months, and I had to really look at that. And if it's taking me an hour and a half for each video, that's 6 videos a week, that's 8 hours. If I'm paying someone for that time, what would I be doing with that time? And so I had to look at how I'm stewarding my time. Would I just be, dawdling or doing something else, or scrolling another Instagram feed, trying to go viral there? Like, what would I be doing? And so I truly have to treat this like my full-time job. I sit down, I go to my desk, I go out for walks. I do the purposeful things that this is a real business.
And you did mention, like, it's been so grateful, you mentioned Sean said, and I know you've been in some of our community inside of VRA Elite, which is a group coaching program. What have you learned? How has that been helpful and being connected to some of our stuff at Think Media?
It's been amazing. The coaching in there is probably, by far my favorite part. And just the number of opportunities we have for coaching. I could be on 6 calls a week if I want. And even with that, I commit to 1 because I choose to steward my time for my business. And I don't want to get this. Sometimes I think as students, we get this overwhelm of I have to learn everything and I have to be on every call, and then I'm not doing the stuff. So I commit to 1 a week. Sometimes 2, but at least 1. But the program has shifted my channel. It has shifted the things. So obviously I got monetized before I joined VRA, but I didn't know how to go from 1,000 subscribers to 5 to 10 to 30. And that's what VRA has really done for me, is like, give me those strategies. Just yesterday, one of the coaches sent me a video of just like switching some tags in one of my videos. Something that seems so simple, but he went through and like switching these words in the description. And so the hands-on help has been, beyond what I ever thought.
I love hearing that feedback. And of course, that's our mission here at Think Media. And if anybody listening is curious, there's a couple things you've been a part of. There is our Video Ranking Academy program, which is a do-it-yourself, self-paced course that also has some community aspects. And then there's also some higher levels where there's group coaching and even one-on-one. But if anybody listening is interested, we'll make sure to link up in the show notes. viralvideocoach.com is actually a chance to just talk with somebody on our team. And if none of that stuff's right for you, no big deal. But maybe there's a level you want to engage with us because you'd say you want help on your YouTube journey. We have a team of coaches in various levels that you can engage with us. That's viralvideocoach.com. And we'll link that up in the show notes if you want to check more of that out. Now, I'm going to list these out. This is fascinating. Maybe ask you about this. You have 7 different ways that you're earning money now, which is wild. Ad revenue, sponsorships, affiliate marketing, building an email list, selling products and courses, generating leads for your business, coaching and consulting. On our form that we sent you, were you like checking boxes?
Well, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is actually, wait a minute. Let me go look at my spreadsheets. This is actually incredible. The amount of ways that income is coming in.
Okay, so you got monetized and you're getting great views per month and your videos are longer. So you probably noticed too that having longer form engaged audience just means that, do you just check the box to let YouTube place ads wherever they see fit?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a conversation for another day, but I'm just rinse and repeat. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And so AdSense and then sponsorships. What have you learned there? Now that you're, a Bible study channel, what's an example of like a sponsorship you've done?
I've done one with BetterHelp. So they reached out, which was really cool to have someone else reach out. Hey, can we give you this? We'll pay this much for a 60-second ad. And I was like, wait, what? You'll pay me this much to talk about it for 60 seconds? That's something that I use and that I enjoy. And so they actually just emailed me last week to like re-up the deal. And to be honest, I was so proud of myself to respond back and say that offer isn't good enough for where I'm at now.
Come
that
on.
was kind of cool
Negotiating a little bit.
Yeah, to say that now. So that was really exciting. But that's been a big one that has come. And then I've had other like Bible study software and Bible study things that have reached out saying, how can we sponsor and be part of it too?
That's cool. And then affiliate marketing, like what kind of stuff could you be an affiliate for?
Lean cuisine. Ridiculously tasty meals that are always a good source of protein and always under 400 calories. You have good taste. Flavorful, not calorie-full meals. Lean cuisine.
No matter what kind of teeth you gotta brush, Oral-B Electric cleans better with one simple touch. Oral-B's dentist-inspired round brush head hugs them, cleans them, and gets in between them for 100% cleaner teeth. Your perfect clean starts with Oral-B.
Yeah, mostly on Amazon. Amazon's a big one for me. People always asking my Bible, or especially now that I teach Bible journaling, like what kind of things I use for that, and things you wouldn't even think on a Bible channel. Hey, what microphone do you use? Oh, you care about that? Okay, let me add that kind of stuff too. So even though I'm not a YouTube channel, people still ask, how did you get started? How can I get started? I see what you're doing for this mission. I feel like I should do it too. Can you help me with that? So that's kind of awesome too.
That's cool. What Bible do you use? I'm personally curious.
Oh yeah, we on His Word My Walk, we read the New Living Translation.
Nice. I'm reading a new NLT wide margin this year. Is actually, I've done a lot of study Bibles, but I went wide margin, no study notes, so no distraction, just rolling through it.
That's where I'm at. Yep.
And then you're doing building an email list. And so do you give away something free that people can join your email list for?
I do. I have a free Powerful Prayers guide that I had before YouTube, but it is, I mean, gosh, the people that download it every day, it's just incredible how my email list grows. And then I serve them once a week. I send an email as well with some additional like services or additional like insights and stuff too.
And then eventually you created a product or course. Do you have multiple?
I have my course, which I actually created 2 years ago when I had an audio podcast. And it just sat there because once I started YouTube, I didn't like how the videos looked. I didn't have a mic. I didn't have anything. So I just re-recorded them all in December. And now that is available and going incredible. There's a community there. There's almost 100 people in there. And it's again one of those things I created 2 years ago, and I continued to grow and continue to serve and just use something that was already there.
That's cool. And I love hearing listeners, and I will recap after all of this. You don't do all of this in one day. There's a lot, this takes time to build this up. But I also love that there was like a 1.0 version. And I love the videos and I love the mic, but now I just got to re-record it. But whenever you build upon the previous version, you're not starting over from scratch. That as we've re-recorded even Video Ranking Academy and are doing so, I'm like getting so much done in February of this year to really block out my March. There's a whole new version coming out of VRA, and I'm so excited for all this new stuff. And it's adding on the new tweaks and the new lessons, but it's also on the foundational framework that we built previously. So it's really cool. And I'm curious, what's it called?
Bible Journaling Bootcamp.
And then how do you host it?
I host it in Circle.
So cool. Okay. And then generating leads for your business. I guess in a way that's a redundant income stream because it's kind of the same as building an email list. And then coaching and consulting. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so that was actually before even YouTube, like mentoring Christian women and speaking at events and stuff like that. And that has just, it grew when I first started my YouTube, and now I've completely scaled it back because of my own capacity. I don't have the capacity to coach people one-on-one, but 2 weeks ago opened a monthly membership. So
in addition to selling courses differently, what's the membership called?
It's called The Sisterhood. So it's just women, us coming together.
Wow. So really then that still brings us to 7. If leads was redundant, a membership is really different than an online course. And so that's so cool. And there was like, I think a quote in the notes that said in the last 2 months of last year or something, you made as much as you made in your entire corporate career or something like that. Was that accurate?
No, each month, November, December, and January. So the last 3 months, each month I made more than I ever had in a month in corporate.
Wow.
So just knowing that this is, it just feels awesome.
I do want to kind of recap this. So this speaks to, you just kind of broke down like the business model, lots that to learn there. But I do want to encourage people from your perspective. You already mentioned this stuff takes time. I also love the professional mindset that you approach. I think there's way too much shysters, fraudsters, get rich quick people on the internet. This is not that. Think Media is not that. This podcast is not that. And you heard it from Kayla. She's like, it's like a 9 to 5. That's what there are leverage things you can do, but this isn't the 4-hour work week. This is, at least I think Media, some people create that, but this is for like mission driven people who love what you're doing, who want to make a difference in the world. And if you love the content and you get to enjoy it and you want to build a community, it can turn into something that is also very lucrative. So you have more money for the mission, but it does not happen overnight. This was a lot to learn. Can you break down just the process of year by year, even of your journey of figuring out teaching, email marketing, course building, and what it really takes to maybe build this kind of career practically? Yeah,
it has to build time over time. I think we can always get sidetracked by what someone else is doing right now or what someone else is doing. It's like the whole start with why book, right? If you're not selling Oreos, then what are you not doing? There's all this stuff. And so I had online business before in the fitness industry. So I knew how to build an email list and I knew how to do certain things. At one point doing fitness, I did a 30-day devotional through the book of Matthew 3 years ago. That's exactly what I did for those 30 days. Literally pulled out the PDF, changed the cover, changed some of the questions, put some updated website information, and that's what I use. Same with my course. It was something I had built 2.5 years ago, and I just revamped it and put it out again. And so to just have those moments that help me get a start, and then to see a little bit of progress, that's what helps me keep going. It's like in anything I've done. It's like once you see a little progress, that's what gives you the momentum to keep going. But it is a lot of work. I don't say this is easy. I don't say it's just all fun and games. It's purposeful, but it is a lot of work too.
Yeah, I mean, that's so in line with our message at Think Media and kind of different than a lot of the over promises that people make on the internet. What's also inspiring about this is I hope listeners maybe feel encouraged that I know we want to have this stuff happen quick. And I do believe mentorship and strategy can get us there faster. But there's something about embracing the journey and embracing the process. Like if it wasn't for my working at a church as a director of communications and being an intern in the video department, and then being on weird freelance video projects that taught me about, whoops, I forgot to press record or charge my battery, or audio issues, and even front facing with clients. If it wasn't for talking to customers at the burger place I worked at and like refining my communication skills there, it's interesting how God gives us opportunities to learn all these divergent, detailed skills in your fitness business. And then how you're able to pull stuff from years ago that you're ultimately implementing today and continuing to build on it. I just hope that the message coming across, on the one hand, I might feel a little bit like, man, I was hoping like I'd be completely arriving at my destination in the next 2 weeks. Probably not. But what could really be built in the next 2 months, in the next 2 years, and even having a legacy vision of what could be built over the next decade if you just keep making consistent small steps forward. For someone starting today as we land the plane, what would kind of your first few steps be? You're talking to a girlfriend. You're like, hey, she's like, I kind of want to do what you are doing. I want to learn from some of your mistakes or what you may have done a little bit differently. What are my first few moves if I want to follow in your footsteps, Kayla?
You just got to take action now. Like, I'm not big on messy action. The word messy doesn't like work with my whole mind and like persona.
Yeah.
But you have to take action, which means preparing ahead of time. I study ahead of time before. There's way more before I hit record than after I hit record in everything that I do. And you have to just put it out there. And know that the main thing for me was, this is truly about me serving and helping someone else. It's not about me making money. The money came much after I started serving and continued serving and continued serving. And then have something small. So for me, it wasn't, $100 courses, or it wasn't these big mastermind weekends or anything. I created a $15 PDF workbook that went with the book of Matthew. And to this day, that is still my top selling PDF workbook every month. But I'll tell you this, since May 1st of last year, so however many months that is, 6 or 7, I've sold over 600 PDF workbooks that are $15 each. So like, you can do the math that over time and as things grow, something that took me 2 long days or longer to put together is now just residual. And so I continue to rinse and repeat. But step 1 is you just got to take action with what you have. You have a phone. So just hit record and go.
Yeah, that's really great. And there's a couple quotes I think that could serve viewers and principles. Your income is directly correlated to the amount of buy buttons you have on your website. I love that you created something, and it wasn't something huge, it was something small, a $15 PDF workbook. And now with over 600 sold, that's earned $9,000. For a lot of people that rely on AdSense only, that is actually kind of like a moonshot. Can seem impossible. And so the power of eventually creating something small is really interesting. I think the more preparation is huge. A lot of times, yes, take action. You've heard me say it probably a zillion times. I'm like, yeah, punch fear in the face and press record, but also like reverse engineer and actually spend a lot more time researching and preparing. And it's a tension of those two things, which I think is interesting. And then it makes me, at one point in VRA, we did like these 10 money principles or something. And I can't list them off the top of my head, but one of them is your income is directly correlated to the amount of value you add to the marketplace. And I know that we're aligned on this servant leadership idea. Like, if you help people get what they want, you'll eventually get what you want. And it's a matter of order. And the order is, it's like, we're not chasing money, we're chasing impact. And we're chasing making a difference in people's lives with trust and the principle that God has woven into the universe, that our income is correlated to adding value. Have you ever heard of this book, Business Secrets from the Bible, by Daniel Rabbi Lapin?
Yeah. Yep.
It makes me think what's so interesting is that God wove these principles into even the Torah, that when we become obsessed with meeting the needs of his children, when we become obsessed with serving other individuals and having the opportunity to do that in a way that we're compensated for doing that, that's the motive. Like, that's like to sell is to serve. And so anyways, I love you speaking about coming from a place of service. As we land the plane, I have one kind of interesting question for you that's I'll tell you what the question is, and we'll get to it because I want you to shout your stuff out, and we'll do that first. So we'll get to it in a second. But it's actually, is there any counterintuitive pieces of advice you would give to creators for growing on YouTube in 2025? Think about that. But before we get there, if people want to see what you're doing, we're going to make sure to list it in the show notes. List it out for me. Where can people follow you, see what you're doing, look at your content, give a few shout outs?
Yeah, just come find me at His Word, My Walk on YouTube. I'm there every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, reading the Bible. But there are 16 complete books of the Bible there with you if you want a friend to read with you one chapter a day. There's a whole community there too. And then BibleJournalingBootcamp.com is where you can learn and grow in how you journal through God's Word as well.
I love it. Okay. Can you think of a counterintuitive piece of advice that you would give creators for growing this year on YouTube?
Yeah, I don't know if this is counterintuitive, but it's one I really wanted to say, and I know you've been talking about this one a lot lately too, is just like, be you. Like, I truly believe that God has done this, but I'm me. Like, I am me when I sit down there with someone and when I sit down and drink my cup of tea because I can't read any longer, or I'm truly just me. And the thing that sets me apart is that. You know, there's a lot of people who teach the Bible on YouTube. There's a lot of people technically more qualified than me, but I gave God my yes. And I gave God my yes as me. I tell people when I first started teaching spin classes, I taught like the instructor did until she wasn't in the room. And then I was like, oh, I can play my music and say what I want into the mic. And that's when my classes started to grow. And I became one of the top instructors was when I didn't have someone I thought I had to emulate. So I don't know if that's counterintuitive, but I think we are all so unique, and look at what we consume. And it's like unique people that we didn't know existed. And so if you can just be like, truly be yourself, that's how my community has grown, for sure.
Well, Kayla, this is so inspiring, and I just want to acknowledge you and thank you. You're such a powerful member of our community, and the whole Think Media team is just grateful for you being a part of what we're doing and all the good you're doing in the world. And I love that advice. Listeners of the Think Media podcast, make videos according to the music you want. No, I don't mean like the actual music. You might get copywritten, but I mean like, what's your vibe? What's your tone? And say what you want into the microphone. And I love the modeling the masters. So we have mentors. Sometimes we talk similar to them, but then when we launch out to be ourselves and be authentic, Kayla, that is so inspiring. And Think Media Podcast. And man, if you got a value out of this episode today, like, rate, share, review, wherever you watch or listen to the podcast. And I'm talking to you, Apple. I'm talking to you, Spotify. Leave a review. Hit those stars on Spotify too. There's stuff happening. They're really trying to make their way in the podcast game. So wherever you like to consume the Think Media Podcast, it always means the world. If you share this or maybe tag somebody or pass an episode along, it helps get the word out for what we're doing. In the meantime, my name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel. This is the Think Media Podcast, and I can't wait to connect with you in a future episode.
And the ultimate Elgato gaming setup for you and your squad. Buy Trolley to win.
Trolley! Let's go!
Marco's better than yours.
gentlemen. 10 in the gun. $10 worth. Money over. I'll pass that. Okay, boy. Come on, baby. And shoot the work. Get it going, boys. I'll take money. You wouldn't sneak up on me like that, Mary.
I wasn't sneaking.
Well, next time, whistle or do something.
Oh, relax, Larry. If you keep this up, you're going off the deep end.
And stop picking on me.
What you need is something to eat. You're opening these cans.
What's that?
I didn't hear anything. Put your hands up. Don't turn around.
Well, hello.
Over there, sit down. Now, who are you?
The name's Autry, ma'am. Mighty happy to make your acquaintance.
What are you doing here?
I was about to ask you the same thing.
You're too late. My brother's been gone an hour.
Oh, Larry Evans is your brother, huh? Too bad he didn't stick around for chow. I guess I made a mistake sitting with my back to a door. Your mistake was in following me. Now, where's the posse? Posse? Don't tell me you're not scouting for the sheriff. Kramer wouldn't like that. He don't appreciate my butting into his business. You're lying.
Wait, Larry. Just what are you doing here?
Looking for the man who killed Norton. Ed was a friend of mine.
Well, Larry didn't do it.
Oh, he's stalling for time. Come on, let's get out of here.